I've been with the company since I was 9. And if you look at the discography, I'm so extremely proud of the diverse pieces and repertoire that we've gone through together. I think it portrays me as a person and what I was going through at that particular time in my life. Doing something as powerful and as meaningful as this project, really, it helps me grow as a musician. The Berlin Philharmonic, they've got a very special place in my heart. I've been working with them since I was about 12. And to be recording the Prokofiev and Shostakovich concertos, which are extremely powerful, yet dramatic and poetic concertos, are very, very different from each other. And to be doing such a great program with them, for me is a huge, huge privilege. And, Sir Simon Rattle is, what can I say? He is an absolute genius. He is a musical godfather in the industry.
I don't know if any other great composer went through the kind of political ringer of somebody like Shostakovich.
This piece in particular, it is absolutely essential to know about its history, to know about Shostakovich and what he was going through in his life, especially at that point. Writing under Stalin's rule, always looking over his shoulder. I mean, the fact that he was writing this piece and he had to put it away, and then later, before he premiered it, he had to change the opus number. All of this, it layers into the piece, and it is probably one of the most dramatic but inwardly painful pieces out there, where you've got so much grief and so much frustration, and at the same time, just outright anger in the piece. Like the pieces like the Scherzo, the second moment, or even places in the burlesque, which is obviously it's a dance, but at the same time, you've got these really grotesque accents and exaggerated dynamic markings, and you think this man is trying to say something here, and he is in his own right, having these little outbursts and living under an extremely repressed situation.
He could have done anything. So there was both the fact that he was forced not to be a modernist in fear of his life. And you have to remember, this is a composer who had a bag packed by the front door for well nigh 30 years, waiting for when the knock on the door came at midnight. But also he chose to pare down his music and to really to send confidential messages.
I have had probably the most fun and the most musical growth for myself by learning and relearning the Prokofiev and Shostakovich concertos. They're drastically different. They were written during the same era, both during the Stalin era, and they're both from very powerful, extremely emotional Russian composers, but at the same time, they had very different backgrounds. Prokofiev, for myself, actually, I learned it when I was very young. I was about 8 or 9, and it's a piece that I've played throughout the years, and I've evolved with it. It's a very beautiful, poetic concerto, and it's more of a lyrical concerto than a virtuosic one, and in its way, it's got extremely feminine qualities. There's a section in the third movement of the Prokofiev, which actually quite a personal section for me, because I was playing it for Isaac Stern when I was like 9 or something insanely young, and it's where you go up high on the E string and you're in double stops and just soaring melodies, soaring beautiful melodies. And I got to that place, and Isaac Stern once said to me, "You know what? You're playing double stops, so they can't hear you anyway. So back up, let the winds play, and just melt into them and just enjoy that moment." Shostakovich is a monster. What makes that piece so special to me is the fact that I learned it only about 2 years ago. I deliberately waited before I learned it. I learned it on my own. I read as much as I could about Shostakovich. I read about his life, his works, listened to a lot of his symphonies, his chamber music, and also, obviously, Oistrak's recordings. It is a massive piece. It is probably one of the the biggest, most intense, dramatic pieces out there. It's emotionally draining. It's stamina-wise, it takes everything out of you. But at the same time, it's probably one of the most rewarding pieces out there for a violinist. Shostakovich has so many spectacular moments, you know, it's really, really hard to find one. The entire first moment, for me, you know, I could play just the first moment and walk off stage happy. The third is probably the most beautiful Passacaglia. In a way, it's almost my favorite movement because it's the tugging on your heart kind of soulfulness.
The Passacaglia theme that turns up in the middle is something that is basically born out of the first two movements' music. He was a composer who was incredibly economical with material. And there are just 2 or 3 melodic cells which build the whole piece. And it's a very impressive intellectual and musical structure.
The cadenza in the Shostakovich concerto is, without a doubt, probably one of the most beautiful and most draining cadenzas out there for the violin repertoire. You look at it and you've got a whole series of double stops and triple stops and quadruple stops and runs and accents, and you name it. Technically, whatever you could possibly imagine for violinists is in that cadenza. I think to actually just open yourself up and to share yourself with an audience and to actually give yourself and say, you know what, okay, fine. This is my interpretation. I'm going to completely expose myself to you, and I'm sharing a piece of myself with you tonight. And I think something like that can be, of course, somewhat uncomfortable if you're a private person, but at the same time, I think you can get something really, really magical out of doing that.
Sarah's internal life is absolutely made for a piece like Shostakovich. Her external face, you wouldn't believe, but what goes inside, there is very clear. There's an enormous amount going out there that she would love us not to know, but she's a wonderful enough artist that she can't hide it when she plays.